Hanover Insurance is a 160-year-old property and casualty insurer. We distribute our products through the independent agency channel. We have about 4,300 employees spread across the United States with our headquarters here in Worcester, Massachusetts.
We sell our personal lines business in 19 states, and we sell our commercial lines business in the continental U.S.
As I came into my role as the CIO for corporate enterprise at the time, what was most important, we could see from a company standpoint, was to address legacy modernization. When you think about our focus to the future on really advancing our digital strategy, really advancing our innovation and the ability to take advantage of insurtechs, you really needed to have a good foundation, and a good foundation is built on being up to date and modern in your core platforms. Of that, the most important was our billing platform, which was on version 3. We were one of the early adopters for Guidewire, and in order for it to meet Hanover's needs, it had to be 60% customizable. That really becomes a platform that's hard to maintain and innovate on top of. And so what we really needed to do was get that up to version 10, where we can take advantage of all the capabilities that the Guidewire platform offers, and thereby enable innovation and enable our digital solutions for the future. As we set about starting this project, it was really critical that we were aligned on the objectives. So of course, the first one was to get to the modern platform that Guidewire V10 offers. But what was really important was that we understood the voice of our agents. So we went deep in going back to mining the feedback we've gathered over the years and what the agents were really seeking to do, and ensure that as we were doing the projects, we were really addressing the needs of our partners, our agency partners. And that went from everything in how we handle funds sharing, how we handle accounts, how we do premium reconciliation, just about everything that could enable a better experience for our agents and therefore our customers. We need to remember that our customers, the one touch point you're going to have insurance all the time is that of billing. How we speak to their checking accounts matters, and it was really that objective to make that seamless for them that we set out to achieve.
To aid us in the selection process, we hired a P&C outside partner to go through a strategic approach to assessing the vendors coming in. Part of that was an RFP, so that we get a short list and then actually have the team come in and present. What we're looking for fundamentally was their expertise in the industry, what they knew about the platform, and then most importantly, how their team was organized and who was representing that team. We actually had them solve business problems during the interview process.
Through that process, what we saw was that the dynamic of the team was with our team. We actually put them into that really cool solutioning bubble where we observed, gave them a tough problem, and we observed them, how they worked with our teams and our business partners to solve that problem real time with little or no prep. We got to see how deep their knowledge really was, how they could consult and advise, and really what the outcome could be when you were in a big project.
Right, and then what was important there is the team that was presenting to us was the actual team that was performing the work. And some of them are still with us today.
What's cool too is that we got to interview every single party. So we took the head of the PMO, they interviewed the project manager, we took the CTO, interviewed the infrastructure and the architecture people. So we all got to see those partners and see whether they were deep as we hoped they would be.
Their discipline, their expertise in that area, and how they would interact with our teams.
Exactly. So what was really interesting was how we ended up selecting Capgemini in the whole assessment process. For me, what stood out was observing members of the team being able to advise our business partners on what was the industry standard, how things were done in the industry, and really challenge them to why would we have to do something so extremely different and see the flexibility that they knew was in the system that we could use to apply to the business process.
And one of the key disciplines that they had, and their leader in terms of project management, was really having the tough conversations with our business partners to come up with solutions that were aligned to out-of-the-box principles that we had.
Right. Very effective. Plus just the whole way that the team came together, both them as a team, but also with our team. And we certainly could witness that coming out. Their deep knowledge of what Guidewire brought to the table in V10, Cap really demonstrated that right out of the box, and that was really powerful, as well as their methods and ways of accelerating the projects with their tools and things that started.
No, I'd agree that deep expertise in the platform allowed them to have the conversations with our business partners around, here's what other carriers are doing, here's what may be better in terms of our system processes, and actually ended up being a lot more beneficial to where we wanted to be in terms of functionality, but also position us now the way we could take upgrades in the future.
Absolutely.
Because of their out-of-the-box capabilities.
And we actually saw that. We actually saw real time how fast we could move when we had to pivot and do some changes as we were coming through the pandemic and what have you, and we could see that.
And that's one of the things I think is a differentiator with Capgemini, is their flexibility around what we needed to do as a business, and their ability to adapt in terms of what that need was at the time was really beneficial for our team. I think it eliminated the noise of any large project and complex project, and just allowed us to proceed, in the path that we thought was.
Here's when I think back, here's what I do know is really different. They knew the billing in business, they knew the insurance business, they knew the platform, but they really took the time to know the Hanover. And so they came across as real partners and advisors, and not in any way condescending or really the people that knew everything. It was really about how do we all get there together, and that was really powerful to observe in the teams.
Yeah, and I'd say their partnership not only with IT but with our business partners was just so seamless in the fact that we're going through a very difficult and challenging year last year in 2020 with COVID going on. And we had to change in a number of different directions in terms of how we were operating and what we needed to build in terms of this platform. And that we have great business sponsors, great business partners, and their ability to collaborate with them and get to end solutions was just amazing.
It was really astounding. And so what I would say is, the outcome was incredible. Our CEO was just talking to our entire employee base, and he referred to our billing implementation as flawless. Well, you don't get there without everybody linking arms and coming across the finish line together. And what was so fascinating was how they really lived the core values of the Hanover. Now, the Hanover's culture is one of the things we pride ourselves on the most. It really is what makes it a unique place to work, a unique place to do business with, a unique place for our customers. So our values are based in collaboration, accountability, respect, and empowerment. And when you think about those, what we call the CARE values, I saw that resonate through the entire CAP team. How they collaborated with our business partners, how they collaborated with our architects and our CTO and all of us, how they were really as accountable for the outcomes for the Hanover as we were. In some ways, it was exemplary, right? Respect, as I said, they have had a ton of knowledge coming to the table, but they equally respected the knowledge that the Hanover people brought to the table. And they were truly empowered to go and do the best they could. And often that came through what we called constructive challenging. That's true collaboration in my mind. That ability to push back and go, really, tell me why, because this is the way the system could function. It would be much more straightforward for you. This is how the experience would work. And they would be at it until we got to a really great, innovative solution.
Yeah, and when you talk about flawless delivery, and our CEO mentioning that for this solution, there's just a magical combination of our IT group working with Capgemini, with Guidewire providing the oversight in terms of the platform, and our business sponsors and partners. That was just a great combination and success.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a magical time, especially when you think that we delivered this during a pandemic. Largely these teams worked together for a number of months together, and then they were all remote.
Right.
And on implementation weekend, out of a team of hundreds of people, we only had 10 of us on site, while everybody else was operating through teams. But it was because of the teamwork attitude, that whole embracing our culture and the care values, that I believe that was able to be successful, because they were a team no matter what.
Right. One of the key outcomes for this project was really making it so that it was non-disruptive to our agents and customers. I think that was a key that we focused on in terms of how we delivered this project.
Yeah, one of our guiding principles was do no harm.
Right.
And I know that sounds so cliche in some ways, but that's actually a big ask. That's to come in with really no disruption to our agents, no disruption to our customers, to really make life easier for our folks in our company to service those customers. Do no harm was a big statement. I think the other one that we talk about a lot is shift left, to really, really drive quality from the very start all the way through the end, further and further up the delivery life cycle was a massive part of what we were about. And again, tying it back to our digital strategy, you needed to be able to be like that to build great digital capabilities on top of that kind of foundation.
Yeah, in terms of the outcome, being such a large project and using the backdrop of it being delivered flawlessly without impacting our customer agents, we still had some post-implementation issues that we had to deal with, but having Cap still at the table to help us and assist us in terms of post-implementation, day 2 items that we prioritized has really been beneficial, and those folks are still here with us today.
I think one of the other things that was really important that Cap embraced with us was this drive for DevSecOps, to really be able to create the proper monitoring environment and to really know what's happening at all elements of the solution, to be able to be sure that you were going to know problems before it ever affected one of our customers. Whether that was DevSecOps or it was other controls that we had in place, we knew right away and were able to respond before it had any impact on anyone. I think the other thing is we also advanced our ability to really have the most robust balancing control type of environments around compliance and what have you. Not that we didn't have them before, but we made it easier for people to do that job. And that's what's most important. As I said, it wasn't just the core of what was Guidewire, but everything around it. It was about do no harm, shift left, and make a really much better experience in the end.
Yeah, and part of that is the quality checks that went into it. I think there were over 14,000 test cases performed on this project in a variety of ways. You mentioned the things that were done with dry runs, everything that we did up front testing, shift left, what we did to validate functionality, integrations to our payment vendors. That was the outcome, and what they left us with is a really stable product, but also now the ability to add to it. We now are positioned in a way that we can take advantage, and we have investments even this year that now allow us to take advantage of that platform more easily than we could do before, because we were so highly customized and it was tough to do.
Yeah, it's really funny that one of the things that I think about is the amount of creativity that went into the project solutioning. I remember these moments where we weren't sure exactly how we were going to do it, and all of a sudden there was this
delinquency was
a great example of how we did that, or even the solutions for balance and control. So that was really powerful.
I think we took optimal advantage too of the Guidewire short path content and the accelerators that they had in their platform, their ability to define what those capabilities were, but what was most beneficial for our project to
Yeah.
tie them in. And then again, it allows us to upgrade and take updates now as opposed to customizing the product to do so.
Yeah, the other thing I would like to say is the partnership between CAP and Guidewire was also meaningful. They welcomed the fact that we had Guidewire come in and actually do those mid-term evaluations, health checks of the platform
Right.
and the code quality and everything to make sure we achieved our outcomes,
Yep.
and they welcomed it.
Yep. Kept us in the guardrails in terms of the product, making sure that we aligned in terms of those health checks, giving us information in advance around things, technical hurdles we may encounter. We actually folded that into the project and made it part, and CAP folded that into their plan and helped us get it through to the finish line.
So one of the other things that to note is, as we talked about this drive for quality, this do no harm, coming from version 3 all the way to version 10, we had a significant migration to go through. We actually had to go through 2.
Yeah.
We had to go from version 3 to version 8 and version 8 to version 10, right? It was way up. We did 13 migration dry runs, 13, to be able to know that we could complete that task almost from memory and accomplish it within the window we had, because we were only willing to not have an active billing system for one day. And we drove hard to get that to be what it needed to be.
It shows you how complex that migration process is. I think with 13 runs, we actually found stuff.
We did.
Every time we ran it, and got better every time. And it really was the key to our success, because that 4-day weekend, which we needed, or that 4-day implementation schedule, that was the most critical item. If we could not get through migration, we effectively would stop the project implementation. So that was the key.
It was one of the greatest successes. I want to talk a little bit about our show times.
Yeah.
So doing an iterative approach, we were delivering value,
Working
software every few weeks that we could demonstrate to what was over 100 people. Understanding that billing touches every single business unit in our company. Every single one, and every single one of our customers, and every single one of our agents. So there was this heightened, like, what's happening in the billing system? And we were very open and transparent and invited people in. What was fun is to sit when we were in the office, in those rooms, when they were doing these live show times, and spontaneous applause would break out.
Right.
And the enthusiasm for people seeing that the team had dug deep into what needed to happen and did it. And it was really great thing to
Those
see.
showtimes are so powerful too, because it does, not only does it encourage folks in what's being built, you could also take that as feedback in terms of what are the things that we can refine. Because in some cases, you even course correct in terms of some of the things we wanted to do. And I think it's always beneficial, both in terms of socializing what's being built, but also are there things that we want to refine along the way.
Exactly.
One of the key aspects of this project was we acted as one team. There were many people involved, many vendors, business partners, IT, but we put our badges on the table, acted as one team. And as we now look back on this project and reflect on it, we want to thank everybody that was involved. Our business sponsors that were with us from day one and really were great partners. Capgemini, that was the system integrator that helped us get through this. Guidewire, that gave us the view architecturally and how we aligned to what the product does. Our IT team and our leadership team that just got us over the finish line. So a tremendous success and true collaboration across the board.